What's going on, guys? It's Brandon back here again today as I chuck this thing over. It's that time of year. It's prediction time. Usually I would do this video in a different format. I would do each division separately, but we're doing my predictions video today. And why is because I also have one for school, and I'm hoping this one will kind of open my eyes up for one of my sports media things. So, NHL season predictions. We're not only going to do divisions, we're going to do playoffs as well. We're going to get an early season prediction here on this video. So we have every team listed in alphabetical order by division. We have the place they finished last season. And we'll start with the 8 seeds for every division. And I guess I'll start with the 8th seed in the Pacific Division. Not really much of a question for me. It's still going to be the San Jose Sharks. San Jose, they definitely are going to be better. The worst has to be behind them because now they've got their young guns. They've got Celebrini. They've got Smith. They've added Michael Misa, who probably is not going to play this season, but it's another young piece to add to that forward group. On the back end, you got Dickinson coming up. You have other guys. You have Askarov and net, add Nedeljkovic in the offseason. And they still have guys they've played around. They have Toffoli. They have Wenberg. On the blue line, they've added Leddy and Orlov and guys like that. Klingberg as well. They've definitely added some veterans to help these younger players move along. The defense is where the San Jose I'm concerned about. They don't have many young defensemen on the roster. Of course, they bought out Marc-Edouard Vlasic, but it's going to be an interesting time on the blue line for the San Jose Sharks. Not a really young star defenseman on that blue line. Of course, they traded out Henry Thrun to Toronto in exchange for Ryan Reeves. So not a lot of youth on that blue line, but that's something they'll probably address in the upcoming drafts. For the Central, I'm not an optimist. The Chicago Blackhawks, my team. They're going to finish 8th. They're probably going to finish worst in the league. I'm not going to do a league standings prediction this year, probably. We'll see. Probably not. Chicago going to finish 8th. They've got the forwards. They've got the defense. Now it's about building those prospects up to be what they can be. Bedard is he's already a star. Now he needs to take that next level into superstar. Nazar, he's got the big money. We'll see what he can do. Vlasic already has the money. Their defense is one of the youngest, if not the youngest in the league. They really only have Connor Murphy and then Matt Grzelcyk on a PTO. Murphy, I would like to see moved at the deadline for something. And then I've already made videos on it, the tons of young defensemen this team has. They've got a lot of expiring contracts, some veterans that could be moved out at the deadline to acquire even more assets. It's going to be an exciting season to see where Chicago is. And, of course, now with the latest news of Lucas Reichel being on the block, that may open up a spot for someone like Oliver Moore to crack the lineup. So, we'll see. 8th in the Atlantic. Of course, Chicago finished 31st last year. Boston here finished 28th. Boston finally fell off. It's been years in the making. I predicted it for years in a row, and then I finally said they're not going to fall off, I guess, because they just keep winning. And then they finally did. So, I'll take responsibility for that one. But Boston, they don't see themselves as falling off. They added a lot of more middle six, bottom six pieces. Nothing that really stands out. Of course, they draft James Higgins high. We'll see how he develops into a ruin. But in that division, I just can't see Boston really moving up that far up the Atlantic Division. It's the toughest division in the league for a reason, and I think it's only going to get better as the years go along now. Especially you have the consistency of Toronto, Tampa, and Florida, and then the young upcoming teams in Montreal, Ottawa, Detroit, and Buffalo. But I don't want to offend Buffalo fans, but it's like we've been saying this forever now. Yeah. 8th seed in the Metropolitan, and it's got to be Pittsburgh, who finished 24th last season. I'm going to expect some guys to be traded off. I know they've been trying to move Carlson, that's been in the rumors. Rust, Raquel, Malkin's last year. Crosby has 2 years now. Letang's getting up. It's all the same stuff we've been hearing for years. It's finally all caught up to Pittsburgh. They did not have a great year last year. They had 80 points, which is more than I expected. But they're going to get worse. They're an old team. They need to redo. They have a couple young guys there, like McGroarty. But if a team needs a team savior like Gavin McKenna, it would be Pittsburgh. And I'm praying it's not, because one, he's Bedard's cousin, and I want him to come to Chicago. But two, they've already had Lemieux, they've had a Yager, they've had a Crosby, they've had a Malkin, they've had a Fleury. They've had these high draft picks. Hawks have really only had those 2 high draft picks in Kane and Bedard. Taze was 3rd, if you want to count that. I think Savard was 3rd. Edolchik, you're going to count as a 3rd overall pick. Good player, not a top guy. But Pittsburgh in 8th, just I can't see them any higher. Moving back to the Pacific Division and finishing 27th last season, I'm going to put the Seattle Kraken in 7th. This is a team that I don't know what they're doing. They fired Dan Bilesma after 1 year, hired Lane Lambert. They're mediocre. That's what it comes. They had 76 points last year. They're a mediocre team that just looks like they're flailing. They're treading water and they're about to drown. You don't know if they're about to drown, about to kick up. They could have a good year. They could have another mediocre year. They started off with. I did the video on the expansion draft. They had that really good, bad first year, really good second year, and they just met in the middle and being mediocre in years 3 and 4. Going into year 5, I'm expecting more of the same. San Jose is going to be better, so I feel like it's going to be them two battling it out for that last playoff spot. But time will tell. Time will tell. Now, number 7 in the Central. This is where it starts getting a little difficult. I'll go with Nashville, although I don't see them. If they were in the Pacific Division, I would not have them at 7. Nashville had a year from hell last season. They added Stamkos. They added Marchessault. Everything fell everything fell apart. Saros played bad. The forwards played bad. The defense played bad. They sent guys on waivers. I think was it Carrier that ended up being... No, Carrier was traded for Barron. Fabro goes on waivers, goes to Columbus and has a really good season and gets some good money extensions. Nothing worked in Nashville last season. They finished 30th because of that. With the way the Central is, it's going to be hard for them to get out of 7th place, but I can see them moving up. It's just right now, after last year, they didn't add much either to really help it. They got a top draft pick. I believe they picked they had the 5th overall pick, right? Yeah, because Utah moved up to 4. So Nashville picked 5, and they got Brady Martin, I believe. And not going to play this year, obviously. But then they added on the back. They added Perbix on the back end. That was the most notable acquisition. And I honestly can't think of really anything else this team really did to shore up anything. O'Reilly might be a name that gets moved. We'll see. But moving on. 7th place, and I hate to do this, but I can't really see anyone else but the Buffalo Sabres falling to 7th in the division. Buffalo finished 26th last season. What is there to say? If they miss the playoffs this year, it'll be the 15th straight season. And I was 6 years old the last time this team made the playoffs. I'm going to be 21 in a couple months. So that's all you need to know right there. And it's the same story different year. I mean, they draft these guys. They get great prospects. They put them all together. They have the youth. They have the speed, veteran presence. And it just never ends up working, whether it be injuries, whether they're close, whether they get 91 points and miss the playoffs on a tiebreaker. It's nothing ever is a break. Buffalo never gets a break. And that's the long and the short of it. And I will be going to a game in Buffalo on October 13th. I believe it's a Monday. I believe it's a 12:30 game, if I remember correctly. So look out for me at Buffalo's Arena. I'm blanking on the name of Buffalo's Arena right now. But they'll be taking on the Colorado Avalanche, but I will be there. So if you're from Buffalo and a fan of the channel, it'll be the 4th stadium I ever see a game at, so I'm excited. 7th. I'm between 2 teams here, and it's pretty easy to decide which 2. Yeah. I'll go with Philly. I think Philly and the next team I choose are close. Philly's only going to get better. Philly is on the way that they're building back up. There will be guys they trade off of. You've been hearing Ristolainen's name for years. They've added Zegras. We'll see how he does. Some of their young guys are coming up. I think Porter Martone is the best fit for Philly out of any of the first-round draft picks. He just has that Philly way. Of course, not going to play this year. As it seems like more and more first-round picks no longer just go straight to the NHL, which could either be seen as a good or a bad thing. It's probably good for development, bad for length of career. But Philly, it's not really a surprise that they're lower in the division. They're still building up. 6th. This is where in the Pacific it gets difficult. Yeah, I'll go with Calgary. They actually finished in the top half of the league last season. 96 points, lost the tiebreaker to get into the playoffs when nobody expected them to be near the playoffs, including myself. Calgary needs a reset, and they have some long contracts on that team that won't allow them to reset, so that's why they're kind of in a retool. Frost and Farabee, I thought were good additions. Not Farabee. Frost and, I don't think it was Farabee. Frost and, who did they add? I forgot who it was in the Kuzmenko deal that sent Kuzmenko to Philly and then before he went to LA. But Calgary is a middling team. They are just kind of in a barren wasteland on their own right now. Not bad enough to not bad enough to get a top draft pick. Not good enough to make the playoffs. Even though they had 96 points, which again they have to fall back this year. There's no way that they do that again. Huberdeau and Kadri are a year older as well, so you expect their production to go even less. Kadri, of course, had a fantastic season, but we'll see. 6th place in the Central. I know there's a lot of hype around Utah, and I buy into the hype after they finished 19th last season. That Central Division is just so good that I'm not sure. If they're in the Pacific, I'd pick them in the playoffs. I honestly probably would pick them in the playoffs. The Central Division, it's just so difficult to pick out a team. And Utah, I just can't see them passing Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, St. Louis, or Winnipeg. It's as simple as that. They're a great young team. They should be in the playoff picture. That's not to say final days of the season, I'm expecting them to be right in that area. And if they could avoid any big losing streaks, which has been an issue with Arizona and even Utah last year had one big losing streak, if they can get in, it would be huge. Just for the players on that team and just for the market in general. Atlantic in the 6th spot. Similar to the Central, I'd pick this team in the playoffs if it was the Metro. The Detroit Red Wings, who finished 21st last season, they added John Gibson in net, and Gibson is the wild card. The big issue with Detroit has been goaltending. If Gibson gets his game, like he did last year in Anaheim, this Detroit team could be very good, very sneakily dangerous, and definitely be battling for a wild card spot. Top 3 spot, if they do well enough, that'd be pretty shocking, but it'd be good for them, obviously. Detroit's looking for playoffs, and they're in a similar spot with Utah. They're ready to come out. It's just getting out of that non-playoff team status and getting into that wild card spot before projecting into that top tier of teams in the next couple years. 6th in the Metro, it's one or the other, and it's the Islanders. I see a lot of people picking the Islanders to make the playoffs. 23rd were last year. I only never seen this team as anything like a playoff team. 2023 and 24. I'll admit, I have no clue how this team made the playoffs. I look at that team and I say, what? What is this? They get the 1st overall pick. They get Schaefer. Great. They traded out Dobson. That's going to lower them for sure. Dobson, you could argue, was the best player on that team. You're expecting good years out of Horvat and Barzal. You need Sorokin to have a good year if you want anything to happen. The Islanders are like Calgary. They need a retool. They're too old. They need to kind of tear it down a bit. But they have too many long-term contracts that they're really not able to. 5th in the Pacific is Anaheim. Not in the playoffs. Finished 25th last year. They're going to be better. Of course, they traded out Zegras. I kind of disagree with the move, but it seemed like he needed a change of scenery. Anaheim's going to be better, and they look like they're finally starting to come out of this rebuild they've been in for some time now. So Anaheim in 5th, that shouldn't be that much far off at that point. I could see them in Calgary going back and forth for 5th and 6th, but yeah. 5th in the Central. Minnesota. Minnesota, who finished 13th last season. And I also should say, that's my playoff line in the Central. So I'm kind of spoiling it a little bit. Minnesota in the playoffs as the 2nd wild card. They're a good team. They're not a great team. And a good team is sometimes enough. I could see Utah and them battling it out, but Minnesota has the X factor. They have Kaprizov, if he's healthy, that can get him into that playoff spot. Of course, he just signed a massive deal. Utah, they need guys like Keller, Cooley, Genther, Hayden, Peterka, whichever one of them it is on the blue line. If it's Sergachev, if it's Dursey, if it's the upcoming in Simashev, like someone like that. They need some X factor like that. That could be a game breaker player that Minnesota has, like a Kaprizov. If Cooley can become that, if Genther, if Keller takes his game to the next level, Schmaltz is older, so I'm not going to count on it. But adding Peterka, all these additions that they've made, all this youth they brought in, this team looks ready in Utah to become a tier above into the playoff picture, but they have to get past those teams with those superstar players like Minnesota with a Kaprizov, like Colorado with a McKinnon, Makar, Dallas, Rantanen. St. Louis just has a really good all-around team. Utah, there's questions about their goaltending, some of their defense. Winnipeg has Hellebuck, regular season Hellebuck, and a good forward core overall. So that's my take on it. Now, 5th in the Atlantic. This might be the hardest pick of them all. Yeah. No. Yeah. Between two teams here. We'll go with Montreal again. Montreal, in the playoffs, however, who finished 17th last season, got into the playoffs under the top 16, and were going to be overmatched by whoever they played. If they played anyone but Washington, I guarantee you they would have been swept. They get one against Washington, and then Washington I predicted to get swept the next round, and they lost in 5. So I was close. Wildcard 2 Montreal, it's about building on what they did last year. They had 91 points. They need to go up from that, because in the West, 91 points would not get you near the playoffs. I believe it was 96. In the East, you had 2 teams with 91 points make the playoffs, so we'll see how that goes for Montreal. They've added Dobson on the blue line, pair him with maybe Hudson on the second pair. You got a really offensive dynamo on the back end there. You got young defensemen. You've got a good forward core. If they now they're going to have add Demidov for a full season. Montreal should only get better from here. 5th in the Metropolitan, Columbus. Although I think Columbus played on a lot of momentum last year after the passing of Johnny Gaudreau, I can't see them doing as good as they did last year. I think last year was a lot of motivation. I don't want to say it was a fluke, but that's what it felt like, to me at least. And I just cannot see them making the playoffs with the team they have. I think they're meandering. They're similar to Islanders, similar to the Flames, meandering, not really sure. And of course, the Yegor Chikhinov requesting a trade. I don't know. 4th in the Pacific, Vancouver. Finished 18th in the seat last year. No playoffs for Vancouver, I think, again. But it's going to be close. I think Vancouver, with a lot of their controversy moving on, Pettersson can only have a better year than he had last year. It's all going to be up to Pettersson. This team runs on Pettersson and a healthy Demko. Those are the 2 X factors for Vancouver. 4th, I saw someone else put them at 4th, and they got just destroyed in the comments. So I'm going to do the same thing. Colorado, who finished 8th last season, taking a drop to the first wild card. Reasons why. I've seen people say this is the best Colorado team since they won the Cup. I'd argue differently. I'd argue and say this is the worst Colorado team they've had since they've won the Cup because there is absolutely no depth on this roster. You have about 2.5 lines. Defense is solid. Goaltending, if Blackwood can repeat his performance, if Wedgwood could have another good second half, Colorado could be better than why would I have them. But they have those X factors that definitely push them up over the edge. McKinnon, Makar, no longer have Rantanen, but what are they going to do with Marty Nashis? Question marks with Colorado? Absolutely. Playoff team? Sure. As good as they once were? No. I can't see that happening right now. Atlantic Division, spot number 4. Florida, who finished 11th. Back-to-back Cup winners. Probably asking why. No Kachuk until probably January. No Barkov for the entire season. Back-to-back Cups, so they're going to be a bit tired. Most of the same team is still around, so they're all going to be pretty tired. And they finished 3rd last year, and they're fine with taking off the gas during the regular season. Just because Florida is finishing 4th in the wild card 1 spot doesn't mean I don't think they will go far in the playoffs. I think Florida has an excellent chance of going for a 3-peat with the roster they have. Just, they'll be ready to go come playoff time. If Barkov being out, that's a huge blow, admittedly. Getting Kachuk back will be huge when he comes back, but Florida, that's why I have them at wildcard 1. 4th in the Metro. Between two teams here. Yeah, I'll go with the Rangers. Rangers finished 22nd last year. A lot of controversy. They were essentially Vancouver in that division. They were the Vancouver of the Metro. And they traded players back and forth with Vancouver, so it's kind of funny. So they should be better than 22nd. The Atlantic is just so good, I can't see them pushing them into a playoff spot, though. If they get in, it's going to be over Montreal. That's the only way I see it. Or if their division's bad enough. It's all up to that. Not a lot of change in the organization. Some young guys like Perreault maybe come up. Berard, Sakura maybe. We'll see. 3rd in the Pacific, the LA Kings, who finished 6th. I think it's back to normal there. LA is going to make the playoffs. Who they play? They just need to not play Edmonton. That's really what it comes down to at this point. 3rd in the Central, St. Louis finished 14th. Gave Winnipeg. They outplayed Winnipeg in that series. St. Louis, I'd say, wins that series 9 times out of 10 against Winnipeg. They proved that they can hang with the big dogs, thus making them a big dog. St. Louis added Pius Suter down the middle. Center depth, they traded out Bolduc for Mailloux, adding a young defenseman. That's something St. Louis needs in a young defenseman. Krug's never probably going to play again. Falk's getting older. Parayko had an excellent year, to be honest. But he's going to eventually start getting older. It's an old team. It's an older team that's kind of in the middle of eras right now. You have the Shen, Braden Shen, Justin Falk, those older players. But you also have guys like Thomas and Kyrou who are in their primes right now. And you got guys like Snuggerud. You have guys like Jake Neighbors who can really contribute to this team in a big way right now. So time is kind of now. 3rd, Ottawa who finished 12th last season. So this is one of those feelings like I don't really see Ottawa getting a ton better, but I just have a feeling they're going to improve. I feel like now Ottawa looks like a team that now that they've gotten in, they figure out the formula to get into the playoffs, they're going to improve. This just looks like a team that's ready to improve in their standing, and with Florida losing some players, I can really see it happening for sure. 3rd in the Metro, the team that finished 2nd last season, the Washington Capitals. I still have no idea how Washington finished 1st in the East last year. It was a one-off. If it happens again, sue me. Washington, last year of Ovechkin possibly, they're going to be motivated. That's the reason I have them in the playoffs over the Rangers. The motivation for Ovechkin is crazy. Speaking of expiring contracts, Panarin's deal is also expiring. I forgot to mention that with the Rangers. Anyway, it's going to be a big year for Washington. We'll see how well they do. If they can repeat their performance, if they can do better. It's a test. Can this team get Ovechkin one more Stanley Cup? Or can this team be able to play without Ovechkin and play that playoff-style hockey without Ovechkin once Ovechkin's gone? Because Ovechkin and Karlsson might both be out of town after this season. We'll see. 2nd in the Pacific, Edmonton at number 9. We finished 9th last season. 2nd back at the this format would have LA playing Edmonton again. I know I picked LA last year. Edmonton proved that they can win 4 years in a row. They've gone to the final back-to-back years. I think they've gotten a little worse, but they've also gotten a little younger because of that. They've added Savoie. They've added Howard from Tampa. So we'll see if in a contract year they go for it one more time, get McDavid a Stanley Cup before it's too late, he's making $17 million per year apparently. And that already kind of leaves who's going to win the division, but we'll get to there. 2nd in the Central, Winnipeg, who finished 1st last season. Another team where I'm kind of rolling the dice on. I don't really think Winnipeg is as good as everyone is saying that they are. But they proved they won the President's Trophy last year, so it's possible. 2nd, Tampa. If Vasilevsky's healthy, this team will be fine. They still have Kucherov, Hedman, Hagel, Gensel, Point. Their depth is a little better than last year, I would say. So Tampa, they should stay in that second spot. I really don't have an issue about them. But whether they're contenders or not at this point, their depth in the playoffs is the question. I forgot to erase this one. And this one. Jeez, my bad. Second in the division, New Jersey finished 16th. Healthy. They've signed Luke Hughes today. 7 years, $9 million. Hopefully he grows into that contract. They need a healthy Jack Hughes. Heischer, Bratt. They need Mercer to have a better year. And they need Nemec and Casey, guys like that, to step up because the D-core. My question mark with them is the D-core. It's good, don't get me wrong, but is there enough space for the young guys? Nemec, Casey. Or do we see Casey moved at the deadline possibly in exchange for a veteran forward, something like that? The Devils are a big question mark. After the last 3 years, they've been three different teams. You've had the really good Devils of 23, the injury-riddled bad Devils of 24, and the injury-riddled still made the playoffs Devils of 2025. Which team are we going to get this year? You kind of want that 2023 team back. First in every division, and third, it's got to be Vegas. They add Mitch Marner. They only give up Nick Waugh. There's really no reason to think this team won't fall off anywhere. In the Central, I'm picking Dallas again because just on paper, that team should be really good, although Jamie Benn did just have a collapsed lung. Prayers to him. They lose Dodonov to the Devils in free agency. Robertson's a big question mark, but they have to go for it this year. This is a big go for it year for Dallas. Atlantic, they finished 4th last season. I got to pick Toronto again. And the team that finished 10th last year is going to win the division, I think, in Carolina. Adding Ehlers and Miller, I think, is a big additions. But that's my predictions right there. That's my division predictions. I'm going to pause the video here, and I'm going to set up the playoff bracket, and we'll go through that in just a moment. So stick with me. All right, we are back. In terms of the playoff picture, I forgot to mention conference winners. Dallas, I think, will win the Central, not the conference. Vegas should win the Western Conference. In the East, I think Toronto will win the division, not the conference. Carolina will win the conference as well. President's Trophy winner, I'm between Vegas and Carolina. I think I'll pick Vegas. I'll give them the P. So Vegas wins the President's Trophy. So we got some similar matchups. Dallas, Colorado, round 1, again. Winnipeg, St. Louis, round 1, again. Vegas, Minnesota, round 1, again. Edmonton, LA, round 1, again. Toronto, Florida, round 1. They never played in round 1. They played in round 2 a couple times, but they play each other. Tampa, Ottawa would be brand new. I don't think they've ever played each other. Carolina, Montreal is an older rivalry from the 2000s, where 2002 and 2006, I believe, they played each other. And New Jersey and Washington, two teams that haven't played each other, if anything, in a very long time that I can't remember. So, who do I think is going to win each series? I'm going to take Dallas over Colorado. I think St. Louis gets the revenge on Winnipeg. And we'll see Dallas and St. Louis again we've seen them in the second round a bunch of times, 2016, 2019. Vegas, yeah, they'll beat Minnesota. Edmonton and LA, I feel like I have to choose LA every year now because it's got to happen at some point, but I made that mistake last time. I'll choose Edmonton. In the East, Florida and Toronto, we'll come back to that. New Jersey and Washington, I'm going to pick New Jersey. Carolina and Montreal, I'm going to take Carolina. Tampa and Ottawa. I guess I'll take Tampa. They got to win a round at some point. They haven't won a round in 3 seasons, I believe, because they play Florida every year. And then Toronto, Florida. That could be a difficult one. If Florida's not going to be 100% because Barkov's not there. But without Barkov, I still think this team is fine. I'm going to pick Florida. I'll pick Florida over Toronto. That's my upset of the first round, I think. Yeah, I picked the lower seed 1, 2, twice. Dallas and St. Louis. Sure, I'll go with Dallas in the conference final. I guess Ottinger versus Bennington. Definitely the star power definitely favors Dallas, so I'll have to go Dallas. Vegas, Edmonton. Vegas's depth just beats Edmonton's, I think. But then again, Edmonton beat them. They're 1-1 against each other. It's really close. But I'll take Vegas and Dallas. Florida and Tampa. Carolina, New Jersey. The East is very hard compared to the West, I think. Florida's had Tampa's number recently, but Tampa used to if they don't have Barkov. I would think I'm going to rely on Florida for their depth. I'm just going to pick Florida for their depth because compared to Tampa's, I think Florida's got better depth than Tampa. They've got 3 lines you could argue could be their first line. Carolina, New Jersey. That's a close series. I think that's a 7-game series right there. Carolina's had New Jersey's number though. But if Markstrom is on, he could be carrying them. But Freddie Anderson's healthy, which is never. But what if he has a healthy series? I'll take Carolina, and I'll get another rematch. We've seen all these teams play each other several times over the past couple of years. And I'm going to take Vegas, and I'm going to take Carolina. I think Carolina's got the depth to match Florida. Without Barkov, Carolina's could finally be something that finally beats them. Vegas, I just think, has more star power than Dallas. The depth is better than Dallas. Some of the players on Dallas are relatively young compared to Vegas. So I'm going to take Vegas. And for my Stanley Cup winner, it's going to be... I don't know. Goaltending, I would take Carolina. Defense, really about even. Forwards, star power, I would choose Vegas. But the bottom 6, I would think I would choose Carolina. I think it's a series that can go 7. And I think for the sole reason of doing it for Marner, I'm going to pick Vegas. Now, I probably just jinxed my second favorite team, and I acknowledge that, but just looking right now, these are my early season predictions. I will, of course, do another prediction before the season gets going. But for now, this is where I'm going with it. I want to thank you all so much for watching down below. Leave your comments, your thoughts, everything you have, because this is going to be a hotly debated topic. I'm eager to see everyone else's takes, but Vegas Golden Knights are my Stanley Cup champion in 2026, winning their second in 4 years, similar to the Blackhawks in 2010 and 2013. Carolina finally gets back to the final, but doesn't get it done. Florida wins however many straight series. They nearly make it to their 3rd straight Stanley Cup final, but Carolina finally bests them after 2 attempts. And Dallas loses their 4th straight conference final. And I don't really have a reason why. I just think I think Vegas is going to be gunning it for Marner. Everything he's gone through in Toronto, although you have different reports, I should say. And yeah, so thank you all so much for watching this video. Again, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I shall see you all in the next one. Have a good one.